In this video, we will learn about classes in Python. A class in Python is a template for creating objects. It can have properties of variables and methods or functions to define behavior. So let's look at how you can create a class in Python. In this video, we'll create a simple bank account class. So in order to create a class, you start by writing the class keyword followed by the name of your class. So the name of my class is bank account and then colon. Now, in the indented space, this is where you put your class logic. So this is where you put your methods, your variables, and other stuff. And we'll look into that later. So when I do this and save, I'm just putting pass here in order to prevent it from giving me an error. So now, by creating this class, we can go ahead and create a lot of instances from or from this class object. So I can first of all create an account. Let's say Bob underscore account, and I'll assign it to the bank account class, and then with the parentheses. So by so doing, I have created an object from this class, and then this I can go ahead and create another object again. Let's say maybe this is team underscore account, and I'll assign it to bank account again. So these are all separate objects that you have created from this class. When I print, let's say Bob account and then team account to the terminal. So I'll go to my terminal, and then using the Python command, I'll run my file. You see that we get this address. You can see that these objects are printed, and then their addresses are different in the computer's memory. So even though these are from these are two instances of the same class, they are all different objects. Now, in order to get the object, I can say dot underscore underscore dit. So this is what we call magic method. Go ahead, you see that it is an empty object or dictionary. So you should take note of that. So this is how we can create a class or a simple class in Python. Now let's move ahead and look at how we can add behavior to a class. Now, behaviors in a class are called methods. So a class method is a behavior that objects of the class can perform. So methods are just functions in Python. That methods are just functions that are attached to an object. So since a class creates an object, when we define a function in the object, it becomes a method. So I'll just create a simple method called deposit. So since these are just functions, they also start with the def keyword, then the name, which is deposit, and then methods take the self parameter first. I'll explain why we have to pass self later. Then a parameter called amount, then colon, then I'll just say print depositing amount to your account, like this, and save. Now, by doing this, I have created what we call a method. So here I've created a method called deposit, which takes self and then amount as parameters. Now, what is this self keyword? The self keyword represents the current instance of the class, and it is used to access variables and methods belonging to the class. So with this self keyword, I can access variables and then methods of this class. So whenever I create an instance of this class, so now right now we have two instances of the bank account class. So because of this self method, I can access the amount, I can access this deposit method and any other class variables that I have created. Now whenever we are calling this method on a class, so let me just comment this one out and let's work with the Bob account. So I say Bob, then with the dot operator I can access the deposit. So as with the dot operator, as you can see, my text editor is giving me auto completion of some of the methods. Some of them we didn't define ourselves, so the only one we have defined so far is the deposit. So I can access the deposit method here, and then now I have to pass in the amount. So when I pass in an amount like this, we are good to go. I don't have to pass in an argument for the self, because Python does that behind the scene for us. So by default, Python will send this bank account class as what the first parameter, and then we can what access what the methods and any other class variables we have what defined. When I go to my terminal and then run my file, we get what depositing 1,000 to your what your account. So that is how we define a method. And if a class can have any number of method that you want, you can go ahead and then let's say let's say withdraw. So this will be another method which will take self. Then this will take the amount you want to withdraw, and then I'll just say print. Let me just copy this one and then paste it here like this, and then I'll say withdrawing the amount from your account. So down here I can copy this down. I'll change this to, let's say 50,000 like this. Then I'll just change, so I can put underscore here to make this readable. Then yeah, I'll just withdraw 1,000 like this. When I go to my terminal, so you see that we get what depositing 50,000 and withdrawing 1,000. So as you can see, so this is how we write methods. Now let's go ahead and then look at how we can what create a behavior or initialize what an object or a class whenever we are creating a new class. Now we have the double underscore init method, which is like a constructor in the Python class. So let me just go ahead and write that for you. I'll say the underscore init underscore self, and then I'll pass in some parameters here. So I'll say account number, and then account underscore holder, and then let's say balance, and I'll assign it a default value of what 0. Then I'll say self. So I'll explain this later. Let me just write them out quickly. Account number self dot account holder, and then finally self dot balance. I'll assign it to what the balance and save. Now let me go ahead and then explain the code to you. So as you can see, my text editor is already notifying me that I'll have to pass some arguments, which we'll talk about later. So now this underscore init underscore method is a magic method. Another way you can call it is what danda underscore init method. It's a magic method in Python, and then this method is used to initialize an instance of a class whenever we try creating a new class. By default, a new class object is being created using the new the danda underscore the danda new method, or underscore new underscore. That's the one that creates the class, and then the init method initializes the class to some values that we would like to pass in whenever a new class is what being created. So in this example, I want that whenever I want to create a new bank account, the account number, the holder, and then the balance should be passed to what the class. So that's why I put that in what in the init method over here, and then the first parameter to the init method is what self, and then this will access what the current instance of the object created, and then set these variables in it, or these attributes to, or these properties to what the class. So the account number, the account holder, then the balance. So over here, since I'm creating it, I have to pass in what the account number, which will be 1 2 3 4 5, then maybe some zeros like that. Then the name of account holder is what Bob, and then the balance. So since we are passing a default value, we can leave it out, or I can go ahead and then pass in some values here like this, and we are good to go. So I'll just move this team class to the top here, comment it in, and then this one to, let's say, an account of, let me just pass in some random numbers. Then the name is team, and over here the balance will leave it out because we don't want to uh, look at that one, or we don't want to add any balance for instance. So I'll just go ahead and then try printing the objects out. So let's say Bob account dot, with the dot operator, then we use the dict, and then this one will be team account, like this. Clear my terminal and run it. Now you see the two objects have been what created. So whenever a new class is created and we pass in those arguments, it will create this object for us. So now we have this object that we can work with. And then mind you, the methods too are also attached. So the methods that we have created, which is deposit and withdraw, that's where, as we saw initially, we can access it on what these objects that you are seeing. So this is how we can use the init method to initialize a class whenever we create a new class or a new object, or when creating a new object. So this deposit method, I can say deposit an amount, or so with the self method over here, I can access what the balance. So with the self method here, I can access this method, other methods, and then properties or class variables that we have defined. So I can change this from, let's say, to what deposited, then the amount, then I'll put full stop here, then I'll say new balance. I'll just delete these ones. Then with the self keyword, I can say self dot what balance, like this. So as you can see, and then over here, before I do that, I'll say self dot what balance, then I'll add plus or equal to what the amount, like this. Then when I go ahead and then on this object like this, when I go ahead and run the code, let's see what we'll get. So as you can see, we get what deposited the amount. Now our new balance is this, and as you can see in the first object here, you see that it's affecting the value here. It is now putting that value here, which is what 70,000 over there in the object. It's because you have what deposited that, it adds it to it, and then it puts it in our balance like that. So this is why the self keyword here is what very useful. So we can use it to access variables and even what methods in our class. Now let's go ahead and look at other things like what class variables. Now a class variable is shared across all instances of a class. These are often used to define properties common to all objects of the class. So for instance, let's say we want to write the name of our bank account, and then whenever we want to do something, we like to what access it. At the top over here of the class here, I can define a variable called what bank name, then I'll assign it to what maybe global bank, like this, and save. So by so doing, this becomes what a class variable, and you can go ahead to define any number of class variable of your choice. So now this class variable is constant for any instance of what the class across the class object, and we can go ahead and then access it on the class or instances of what the class as well. So down here I can just come, let me just comment these ones out. So down here I can say print bank account dot what bank name, like this. When I run my file, you see that we get what global bank outputted down here. So let me just comment this one to outputted down here. Now in this class method, as I said, you can do anything here. So right now I can say print created new let's say object, like this. Now when I go ahead and run this, you see that we get created new object, printed out twice, because anytime we are creating a new instance of this class, this function will always be what executed. Okay, this method over here will always be executed. So since we are creating two instances, that's why we are getting two out print out there. When I comment the second one out and run the file again, you see that we just get what created new object outputted. So you should take note of that. So I'll go ahead and comment this one too out. Now let's go ahead and look at what class methods. So how we can define class methods using the class method decorator. Now a class method is associated with the class rather than an instance, so it can modify the class variables. So in order to define a class method, so I'll just come down here. In order to define a class method, we use what? The class method decorator. So I write at class method, then I'll put in my method here. So I'll say set bank name. And then this one, the first parameter is it takes is what? The class object. So since we cannot write class like this because class is a reserved keyword in Python, the convention is to use what? CLS like this to represent what? The class instance, the name of the class. So in this case is what? Bank account. So then I'll pass in another parameter, maybe new name of the bank. Then over here with this, I can access the class variable, which is what? Bank name, and then I'll assign it to what? The new name that will be provided like this. So by so doing, this method over here becomes what? A class method, and then it can be used to access what? The functions or other methods that will be defined in the class, and then other class variables. So I can go ahead and then down here where so down here I can say bank account dot what? Bank name, and then I'll set it to what? International bank like this. Then over down here I'll just say no, I don't want to change it like this. I want to change it via the class method. So I'll just say send bank name, and then I'll pass in what? International bank. Let me write that properly. And then I'll just say print bank dot what? Bank account dot bank name. Go to my terminal and run my file. You see that now the class name has been set to what? International bank. So you can do that, and you can go ahead and then write any number of what? Class methods that we want, and then these class methods will help us to access methods and other variables of what? The class, and they will not be particularly associated with what? Instances of the class. So right now you should get to used to the difference between an instance of a class. So this Bob account here is what? An instance of the bank account class, and then the team account we created initially to is also what? An instance. So with one class Python class, we can create any number of instances that we want from that same class. Now let's go ahead and look at a static method, how we can use the static method. So we can define a static method that does not depend on the instances or class variables. They are normally used for utility functions within the class that does not need access to self or the class instance. So let's say I want to just define a method called, let's say maybe a bank, let's say bank details like this. So this I can make it what? When I go ahead and just write it like this, so I'll just say print. Let me just put some these things here like this, and then over here, I'll just say welcome to. Okay, let me just put print here. Print bank details. Welcome to, let's say, global. So over here I can use what? With string interpolation, I can access the bank name, which is what? A class variable. So I'll just put F here. No, let me do it like this. An F string like this. Then I can say bank account dot what? Bank name like this. I can do it like this, and then maybe put some print statements here. Go ahead and then put some description or something there like that. So okay, let me just put something like best bank in the world like this, and save. Now as you can see, my text editor is giving me some warnings that instance method should take self, but when I put self here like this, now I'm not making use of self in this method. Okay, I'm not, even though yeah, this one I just want to show you that we can access this class variable like this, yeah, and moreover to with this self now, yeah, I can say self and then access it like this, and we are good to go. But I don't want to do any of this stuff, so I'll just go ahead and I'll say welcome to global bank like this, and then remove the f string from here and save. Now, as you can see, we are not making use of self. We are not accessing any instance of the class or even the class variables over here. So I can go ahead and then remove this self here, and then with the static decorator, class method decorator. So I'll just put static method decorator here. So with the static decorator method, now this method is what just available to this class, and then I can go ahead and then use it on this class over here. So just come down here excuse me, bank account dot print bank details like this. Now as you can see, it is printing our what bank details here. So I'll just go ahead and then comment this one out down here, and then comment this one to out. Then go to the terminal. Let's see it properly. So as you can see, we are getting our results in the terminal like this. So we can make this what a class method. I'll go ahead and define another class method. So mind you, we can return from a function too as well. So I'll just say static method, and then I'll say calculate interest, and then this will take the principal, then the rate, and then the time, and this will what return. So we can return from methods in Python too as well. So like I said, methods are just functions that are attached to what an object. So I'll just return what the principal times the rate times the time divided by 100 like this. So I can come down here, I'll comment this one out, and then comment this one to out, put my comments at the down. So I'll just say interest, and I'll assign it to bank account dot calculate interest, and then I'll just pass in some random values, arguments like this. Now go to my terminal. Okay, right now we will not get anything because since I'm returning from this method over here, which is a static method, I have to print the value out. Or better still, in order to prevent all this assignment, I'll just put it here like this, and go to my terminal, run my file. Now we get what 50 outputted. So this is how we can define another class method, and you see that here we are not taking self, which refer to an instance of the class, or we are not taking the class itself, which is CLS, which is what a class method like this that we've defined earlier. We are just making use of what this class, bank account class, and then we are passing a behavior to it. So this is how we can define what a static method in Python. Now we have other decorators like the property decorators, which will allow a method to be accessed like what an attribute. Those ones too are there. So with that said, that's all for this video on how to work with classes in Python programming language. So in order to define a class, you write the class keyword and then the name of your class, and then you put in your methods and then your attributes or properties into that class, and then you create instances of that class. And since this is a class, it is what it makes us create reusability, and then this class will be what very reusable. We can import it into another Python file or module and then make good use of it. That's all for this video. Please like and subscribe to help the channel grow and for more videos and contents like this. Thank you for watching and see you in the next one.